Hello guys, welcome back to another video. I know it's been a while. Well, it's been a week, which is not that long, but I definitely was promising weekly or daily content actually. Um, and I wasn't expecting to receive this kind of love, reaching 1,000 subscribers so quickly. The channel is now monetized, absolutely insane. Love the support from you guys. And I just think I needed to take a break from YouTube for a bit because the daily content was kind of getting to me in terms of feeling it was an obligation to come up with new ideas every day. So I might be holding back a bit for the next few weeks, trying to make more interesting stuff and at least just making videos when I feel like it. I don't want to spam videos at you guys. But today we have something very, very cool, and it's going to be some older cards that are under $100 that I think are still really fun pickups in general. And we're going to be using Pokedata today for all of the data, in case you're curious. And let's start with the first one. Espeon and Deoxys GX. Now, this is a tag team promo that came in a tin. These were extremely cheap when they first came out. Actually, not a tin, sorry. I think it was a collection box. And yeah, these were super inexpensive when they first came out. But if you bought a ton of them, you are now seeing some pretty good gains. Honestly, I think it's one of the better promos. Really hard to find at a 10. That's why the PSA 10 has such an insane premium on it. But yeah, really, really fun artwork. I think the Darkrai and Umbreon, I would love to put on this list. The other promo like this, that's in the other collection box, but unfortunately, just way too expensive at this point. It used to be a lot cheaper, but is more expensive. I think you could probably get that for cheaper if you went for like a PSA 7 or PSA 8, and maybe you just crack it if you want the raw copy. But yeah, I think overall this is a really, really good card. Just in general, I love the artwork. And tag teams are getting harder to come by nowadays. Next, we have this full art Jessie and James. Now, people will say that this is pretty, expensive for a trainer card, especially one that is a little easier to pull from Hidden Fates, right? The full art Jessie and James isn't really known to be the hardest card to pull. But again, as these sets get older, there's less chance of them to be opened, and so the population is naturally not going to grow at a fast rate, right? We're not going to see an insane exponential jump in the number of full art Jessie and James. I think it's also one of the most unique cards in terms of trainers. Jessie and James are super iconic characters from the anime. Everyone knows them. Everyone loves them. Um, it's there's no card really with just Jessie and James like this, unless we're going to like I think Team Rocket, the original Team Rocket set had one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, unless we're talking about like what the Here Comes Team Rocket, right, with the Jessie and James explicitly on there, which is definitely not a bad card, but I mean, come on, let's compare the art here. I think this one is a lot more fun, a lot more dynamic. You got Wobbuffet in the background, you got Meowth. Really, really cool artwork. I have this in a 10. Pretty easy to grade this as a 10. If you can find a good quality raw copy, I would definitely recommend submitting it to PSA. That's how I was able to get my 10 for relatively cheap. I remember buying this card when it was like 15 bucks. And yeah, one of my better plays for sure. But in general, I just love the card. I'm probably not going to sell it. Very, very fun artwork. And you guys know that I've been talking about Steam Siege. I actually think it's not the worst set. Um, and this Gardevoir Secret Rare is pretty sick. You got Yveltal in the background, Rating Legends ZA soon. We're probably going to see Xerneas and Yveltal return in some kind of form. So I don't think, having a card with Yveltal in the back is necessarily a bad idea. Gardevoir is a pretty popular Pokemon. You could also go for the Mega Gardevoir Full Art from the same set, Steam Siege. Again, under $100. And I did talk about it in my under $100 Mega video, if you check that out. But yeah, I think this is a pretty cool card. It's also Fairy, which is kind of a, the type is gone now. So I don't know. It's a cool relic from the past. It also got dual typing. Very, very unique card in my eyes. I think it looks cool. And now we're moving on to Generations, and specifically the Radiant Collection. Guys, there's so many good cards from the Radiant Collection from Generations. Generations in general is just a very amazing set. This Sylveon with the Eevee, super, super cute. I love this. Obviously, in a 10, it is insanely expensive. Hard to find at a 10. And that is really contributing to the price of it. But just the raw copy is not that expensive. Not a bad pickup at all. I think it's a very, very cute art. And again, more generations. We have the full art Pikachu, super super cute. A bunch of Pikachu's just kind of colliding to make a Pika sphere. Um, and then we have the full art Flareon, which also features Jolteon and Vaporeon kind of looking at you like your dog would, or your cat would, if they're expecting some kind of treats. Very very cute artwork. Love the eyes almost. It's a I think it could be a little off-putting, if you look at it for too long. Like now that I'm looking at it, the eyes are a little too crazy, but it's a very cute card. Like I can't deny that. And a 10 again, super expensive premium, but just the raw copy is not too bad. Be around 60 or 70. Um so yeah, I would definitely be picking this up. I think a lot of these from generations are great. Another one, the full art Mega Gardevoir EX. I think this looks absolutely amazing with the shiny and the regular version right next to each other, and for a pretty good price too. And if you want like a heavily played one, obviously you can see this heavily played one sold for only $20 a few months ago. And if you don't really care about the condition, yeah, you can definitely pick up some pretty scuffed up versions of the card. If you do, you're gonna end up paying a premium. But honestly, for a 10, 500 is not that bad. I don't really know what the pop report is in terms of how hard it is to gem this, but I mean, it's a very nice looking card. I'll say that. And obviously, Mega Gardevoir is getting its own card in Mega Evolutions, so that is going to be very, very exciting to see. Maybe it'll impact the price of this card. But yeah, Generations in general is a really cool set. I love it a lot. Next, we have the Full Art Primal Groudon EX. Now, both this and the Kyogre I put on this list. Kyogre's a little bit above $100 in terms of just actual price, but I figured I was going to put the Groudon from Primal Clash. I might as well put the Kyogre. The reason I'm putting these on here is because I actually do believe we're probably going to end up getting Primal Pokemon back. If you guys were around for ORAS or Mega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, those games did come out alongside Mega Evolutions, aka Gen 6. And we're seeing a return to form for Mega Evolutions, right? The new game, Legends ZA, a lot of Mega Evolutions. The new TCG set is literally, only about Mega Evolutions. It's called Mega Evolutions, which is kind of crazy. They're calling it a gimmick. And Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre, respectively, came out during that kind of gimmick era, right? Along with Mega Rayquaza, obviously, and a bunch of other Gen 3 Pokemon that got their own megas, like Blaziken got a mega, Sceptile and Swampert also got a mega. And so I think it kind of makes sense if they did bring back the Primal Pokemon, because those gimmicks, do kind of match up. They're almost like megas, right? But I guess a little different. They're Primal. I think they should have just made them mega, if I'm being honest. But anyway, they match the style of other mega cards very very clearly. And I think if we end up getting new Primal cards for Kyogre and Groudon, these could see some pretty cool movements. Not to mention the fact that I just think they look sick. So yeah, these I think are pretty good pickups right now. And now we're gonna go on to some promos that I really like from X and Y. I think these are super slept on in my eyes. This Zekrom promo where he's like fighting Palkia, and there's Latios in the background. You can see right there. And then there's Palkia who has Latios fighting in the background. I think it's using like spatial rend or something out in the sky. And then you have obviously the Latios card with Palkia in the background. It's cool that they all kind of connect to almost make a story or like a greater battle that's going on. I think all of these promos are really, really fun. And then this Darkrai from X and Y Blackstar promos, just in general, it's hard to find this in a good quality, which is why the PSA 10 I think has probably such a low population and such a high price. But dude, honestly, a lot of these XY Blackstar promos look absolutely amazing. Now, obviously, a lot of these are above $100, but ones I would consider picking up are this Mew looks very cool. You got Mega Rayquaza. I love the shiny one that's just jumping at you. I'm talking about the Latios Palkia. I already talked about those. Latias is also here if you're interested in that. Not these Pokemon aren't as interesting, right? Like Braviary and Noibat in the background, but still fun. This Shaman EX, very very cute. Another full art like kind of Shaman. Dialga and Celebi are looking pretty cool here, not gonna lie. Yeah, I think X and Y full art promos are some of the better ones, honestly. They almost mimic illustration rares that we have nowadays. And I think a lot of them look really, really fun. I like them. Yeah, there's a lot of really like hidden gems down here. You can even get into some of the half arts like this Kingdra. I remember this being a pretty popular, uh, mechanic just because the art looked so much better. I actually have this Salamence promo for my childhood collection. Super, super good Salamence. Um, but yeah, overall, I think a lot of these XY promos and even Sun and Moon Blackstar promos are starting to get the love they deserve. This Venusaur is absolutely insane. I think it's one of the best Venusaur cards ever made. But again, over $100. And if you're curious about the Sun and Moon promos, let's check those out. I did include some of them, I think. Uh, like the Espeon and Deoxys, obviously. You could buy the Glass Birds. I mean, I could see these seeing a massive correction at some point just because there's so many of them. Because they come in the Hidden Fates ETBs, and again, they printed Hidden Fates into the ground. Um, but, doesn't really matter because if there's enough demand, the price will just inevitably move up. This Eevee, I think, is super unique. Actually, I would be picking this up. The PSA 10, I believe, is pretty hard to get. So that also is kind of contributing to a super high price. Yep, as you can see. But the raw copy is still pretty cheap. I think it's a funny looking card if you're into the art. Uh, Celebi and Venusaur is a fun tag team. Melmetal and Lucario. And yeah, there's some other cool, promos. Shining Ho is actually kind of a standout to me. I do like this. I believe this comes in the Shining Legends ETB, which I think is actually still a good pickup. The Shining Legends ETB is a little underrated in my opinion. You could pull that Mewtwo. But anyway, I think that's going to be it for the video. A lot of cool cards that are still under $100 that are pretty old at this point. Feels weird to say that, but all right, like Sun and Moon and X and Y is starting to get old. And as you can see, these promos do go up in value. So if you're starting to think about this trend, this overall trend of promos going up in value, maybe we'll extrapolate a bit and think for yourself, what are the promos that came out in Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet that might see some similar growth? But in any case, that's going to be the video. Let me know, did I miss any cards that are older that are pretty underrated in your eyes? I didn't really go over a lot of like super old stuff like base or gym. I'm mainly just going over like, Sun and Moon, X and Y. And I'm not a huge fan of black and white cards in terms of the artwork. I think X and Y is really when they started to step it up, especially with the promos. And Sun and Moon had tag teams, obviously. So that's what I would probably be focusing on if you're buying older cards. But anyway, if I miss anything, let me know it in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.